Hello. For our lab group project, our topic was invasive alien species. Invasive alien species, or IAS, are non-native species that endanger an ecosystem, habitat, or a specific species. Most new introduced species are unable to survive due to competitors, but in some cases, they might not be an immediate danger or have a natural predator. According to the United States Fish and Wildlife Preserve, there are around 4,300 species in the United States that are reported as IAS. For the basics of alien species, they invade by water, pollination, climate change, etc. However, most IAS are created accidentally, but some are on purpose. For example, the Apis mellifera honeybee, which is used to pollinate crops in North America.
There are many environmental costs to invasive species. One includes that it messes up the entire cycle already accomplished in the area. An example of this is the infestation of hemlock trees in America. And this is a really interesting topic. So one interesting fact is that species that have toxins can pass their toxins into their predators, and then they can contaminate the entire food pyramid. There are many vocabulary words, but one vocabulary word is provisioning, which means provide with food, water, and other needs of living. Examples of this include food, timber, fiber, and water. Another vocabulary word is regulating, which means controlling environmental factors to benefit the world. Examples of this include climate mitigation, flood control, disease, pollution, and water purification. And another vocabulary word is cultural services, which means preserving important locations and history. Examples of this include recreation, tourism, aesthetics, and spirituality.
Up next, I'll be discussing 3 major benefits of invasive species. First, invasive species aid low-income communities by providing them with a means of sustainability. This can be seen in 2 specific groups of trees in South Africa, pinus and acacia. While they could be detrimental to their ecosystem, they provide for the South African economy as timber, firewood, and even medicine. Next, invasive species assist North American farmers. Foreign honeybees, specifically Apis mellifera, help pollinate North American crops. These bees help especially in areas where there are smaller or no bee populations. Finally, invasive species benefit the economy by appealing to the idea of creating a beautiful environment. Many plant nurseries sell invasive species to customers, which generates revenue for the nursery. With these points in mind, we must remember that invasive species do attribute positive aspects to society and the environment.
Background on synergies and trade-offs of invasive alien species. First, let's talk about what is a synergy and what is a trade-off. A synergy is when 2 or more organisms or factors work together in tandem. A trade-off is an exchange of something in value. The synergies and trade-offs of invasive alien species is a delicate balancing act because when you introduce an invasive alien species into a new environment, it will always have some form of trade-off, good or bad. Some form synergies which benefit both the invasive species and the native species, but this is usually rare, with majority of IAS having a favorable trade-off in favor of the invasive species, not the native species. This can be seen in various locations all over the world. In South Africa, the introduction of woody plants has caused an increase of income from the wood products industry at the cost of indigenous flowers, with a $1.6 billion yearly from wood products and an $18 million loss of flower and grass earnings. In the Great Lakes, zebra mussels were added to increase water clarity and make recreation better, but in turn threatens the $4 billion in sports fishery. In Hawaii, the feral pigs bred with European boars and has become an integral part of Hawaiian hunting culture. But this causes a $450,000 in damages to natural parks yearly.
Population tracking on invasive species helps to increase awareness and effectively prevent and manage invasive alien species. Using hunting or fishing is one way to track the populations of invasive species. Increasing hunting and fishing incentives can help with lowering the overall population, such as Florida's incentive on lionfish fishing. The Lionfish Challenge of Florida encourages and rewards recreational and commercial divers to remove lionfish from Florida waters. This incentive helps to control the population of lionfish as well as track how many lionfish are in Florida's waters. One way to control invasive species is by preventing the introduction of them in the first place. Ways that you can help do this is by cleaning your hiking and fishing gear after each use, not moving firewood because of the critters that might be living in the firewood and ashes, and by making sure your boat is clean before moving it to a different body of water so you aren't transferring invasive species like algae to the next body of water.
There are about 26 different kinds of invasive species that are considered a threat to Kentucky. One kind is Asian carp. They have become harmful to the native species and have grown too large and eat too much plankton. Wild pigs are another common form of invasive species in Kentucky. These wild pigs make water quality worse because they roll around in the water and get dirt and mud in the water source. Plants can also be considered invasive species. One plant in Kentucky, commonly referred to as water thyme, was brought over to the U.S. from Asia to be used in aquariums. They will grow over a whole area, blocking out all sunlight for other plants to grow. In conclusion, invasive species are typically bad for the environment and for biodiversity. The costs, monetarily and environmentally, outweigh the benefits. However, there are several ways to prevent introducing invasive species to an area. We should care about preventing invasive species in order to protect wildlife, but also to protect humans. So do your part and help protect the world and ourselves from invasive species.